I now need to talk about planning. Um, I've got a 5Ps approach to planning. My 5Ps are: perfect planning prevents poor performance. I won't be rude and add in another P. But it is important. Planning is vital if you're going to get things right. I want to talk about aspects of planning. I want to talk about market research. I want to talk about market selection. I want to talk about intellectual property, and then I want to talk about your export plan. So the first thing is you need to think about how you're going to research your market. Well, clearly desk research is a good place to start, and increasingly everybody's using the internet. I Google everything. I wasn't sure that I'd ever see the day where Google would become a verb, but it is. I Google everything now. And it is a very good way to get some background research and to get a start. But you may actually want to go further than that and look at professional market research, or indeed you could use a UKTI service which is called OMIS, and we charge for some service in our overseas posts where they go out and look for potential agents or distributors, or for what the size of the market is for you. Please think about that, but get help. Get help from probably your Chamber of Commerce, the Growth Hub. They will point you to the right people. And there is an organisation called the Institute of Market Research, which has practitioners that you may want to use. But absolutely vital that you understand the market. We're dealing with a population, a world population of 7 billion people. In 10 years' time, that will be 8 billion people. In the UK, we account for roughly 0.8% of world population. You need to find out about the 99.2% of the population that is outside of your normal sphere of activity. And one of the ways of doing that is proper research. You need to do that to understand trends. You need to do that to understand the GDP or whatever it may be, but also, the demand for your market, how you need to adapt for your product rather, and how you need to adapt that to suit the local market. You've done some research. You've probably identified by this stage how many markets you might be considering. You might have 12, you might have 15 markets to have a go at, and I think that's too many. You really need to start with a small number of markets, one preferably, probably closer to home. But initially think about what factors you're going to use to do market selection. And I've got a sort of market selection tool that uses a whole host of criteria that I will talk about on another video. But the things that you need to think about would be population, I've already talked about. Where is the big demand for your product? It's pointless having a perfect fit for your product and service if the total population that could ever take your product is just a few people. You need to go where the bigger demand is, both in terms of the demand at the higher price. Remember, we're talking about profitable exporting, but you also need to know where there's a larger number of potential consumers of your product. Think about that when you're looking at your market selection criteria. Think about the demand. Think about what aspects of demand we're talking about, and whether you need to think about, in marketing terms, using the demand that is already there, or helping to sort of create or to stimulate demand. I will talk about promotion later, but these are the sorts of things you need to think about. So we're talking about the population, we're talking about sort of price that's available out there, and we're talking about demand levels. Think about the relative price. Mostly, when we're dealing in exporting, you will get a better price. Not always true. If I had a penny, or perhaps in this case a cent, for every person who came to me and said, I want to get into the USA, I'd be a very rich man. But the USA is just about the most competitive market on the planet. Prices are extremely tight. All the other aspects of price, the non-price competitiveness aspects you need to think about, the service elements, are extraordinarily high in the USA. So, take that into account. Think about relative price matters, not just the absolute price that you might be able to achieve. And think about your competition. Where's the competition at its most severe? You probably know from your own industry, your sector, the people that you mix with, where the competition is operating. Worth looking at that. Actually, here's a good time to point out something that a lot of people forget, and that is your local networks, your networking with people. that are in similar areas. A really vital source of information when you're thinking of planning is talking to other people that are doing it. Many people in the exporting game, like me, are really happy to help and to help other people and to mentor them. But if they're in the same business as you, they can be really helpful and give you some really top tips. You need to think about IPR. You need to think about your patents. Do you have any patents? Where does your patent extend to? If you've got a UK patent or a European patent or a worldwide patent, you need to know where you're going to have protection. If you have protection, you have the possibility of being able to very profitably exploit the benefits of that patent. You need to think about planning. You need to think about how you're going to exploit it. You need to think about copyright, and you need to think about trademarks. Where have you registered your trademarks? Now, some technical stuff here. In copyright terms, there's the Berne Convention that you need to think about, and in trademark terms, you need to think about the Madrid Protocol. Now, look to countries that have signed the Berne Convention. Once you've established copyright in the UK, you will find that you're covered in Berne Convention countries. And your trademarks, again, if you registered under the Madrid Protocol, countries that are signatories to the Madrid Protocol, again, you will be protected. But do be very clear. When it comes to .com or .cn or .co.uk, there are businesses that have gone out and tried to steal a march on their competitors by registering their name, their domain name, in different countries. Be very aware that that's an issue and think about it when you're planning. So if you're planning your market entry for where you're going to go, one of the key things, of course, is make sure you have a whatever the country is that you're going to go in, so that people will actually look for you and not think about having to go purely to the .com or even worse, probably, the .co.uk. What you then need to do is to think about putting all of this into an export plan. Now, I've got no format. There's no golden rule about how you put your export plan together. It is, though, important to plan. I've been fascinated by some research lately. I've been looking at what are the characteristics of exporting firms versus the characteristics of non-exporting firms, and seeing whether those characteristics are present in non-exporting firms that I might talk to them about exporting, so they'll be able to exploit the benefits of exporting. And a whole host of them come up. Things like degree level education within the company, an owner or a senior manager born overseas, and these make firms more likely to succeed in exporting. But overwhelmingly, the single biggest factor in businesses being successful in exporting is having a plan. It's having a written plan. Don't care what it looks like. Put your thought process into it.